Okay, let's go live tonight. A little bit late, but we are rolling now. So hang in there because this must be a great show. After all, we're having so many problems tonight that it has to be. either there's someone here that has never seen this before, or perhaps this is just going to be a really good presentation. We're going to cover a lot tonight. It's going to be a longer show. We're going to cover a second presentation I do when I go and do presentations at other churches, and we're going to cover some current events when you're all caught up with what I'm about to talk about. This is going to be a little bit review and a little bit of brand new stuff. So hang in there, stick with me, and we'll talk to you very soon.
The system is totally rigged and broken.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
Demon spirits will declare themselves to be inhabitants of 5 distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet.
It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been.
I still think these are what people call angels. I'm dying to know what they've got to say.
Pretty severe suffering brings them.
These entities have the ability to appear in any form.
Strange Normal. My name is Bradley. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what is going on, and there's a lot going on, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you're notified when things like this happen. Folks, it's been a wild ride. We have a brand new installation of Windows, and that's completely threw off all my presets, and so we've had a little bit of a delay getting started here, but we are ready to roll. And you know what? I thought it would be a good night to really cover a second part of this interesting stuff that's happening to get everyone up to speed. If you haven't seen the first part yet, you should watch Christians Are Hiding about the end of time, what Christians are hiding in the time. If you go to Strange Normal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strange Normal, and then you look in the best episodes section, I think it's number 1 up there. It's worth a shot. This is part 2, so we are going to assume that you are all caught up on the 6 main instances, qualities of what's going to happen at the end of time with this spiritualism that has crept up on us for some. And we're also going to do current events. We've had a lot of current events that happened this week, and I thought it would be good to cover those as well. So if I can just make sure before we get started here that we can all hear me and that everything is looking good. I'm looking at the chat right now. They said there's about a delay, audio delay. Our brains will compensate. Yeah, I figured that there was a delay here. That's too bad. I wonder if it's my board or what. I can't hear it because I'm live. But that's definitely gonna cause an issue. If it's not sounding good, let me know. I'm gonna just quit and do it tomorrow because this has been a nightmare, and I need to check everything before we go live next time. Could be buffer out of sync. How bad is it out of sync? Like how many seconds? If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it out of sync? Don't give up. No need to worry about the video that we're playing in sync. Just a bit of delay. Okay, not bad. 1 second. Oh, but 1 second is awful. It's 30 milliseconds or so. Okay, so it looks like some people are having 1 second, 2 seconds. So does it look like I'm running a as a dubbed out of a non-English broadcast, or does it look like this is a normal live stream? I guess that's what I need to know. Because if it's normal, I'm gonna go with it. But if it's a dub, I'm gonna be like, what is going on here? And I need to run more tests on audio. It does look like a dub. Normal, just used to lag. Close. Don't leave us. We can listen just fine. Okay, all right. Well, we'll just roll with it, and we'll see if it needs to be redone. I probably need to redo this one produced anyway, so I'll probably re-upload that. It'll suffer because no one will watch it because they've already heard it, but let's go for it anyway. This second presentation I do is called Do Not Be Deceived. And like I said, we're going to get into the current events, and there's been some interesting stuff that happens, but I really want to go through this today because I think it's worth talking about. And I'm going to go away from the chat for just a second so I can read my notes on the screen. But first off, let me bring up my slides so you can see that to make sure that this is working as well, because that's going to be super important if you can't see my slides. All right, so let's get one thing past because I think it's very important. I was asked this weekend. I was like, they said, "Have you ever been heckled because of what you present?" And I said, "No, actually, no one's ever really heckled me. They normally just say, you know, what are you talking about? This is crazy." But then as I get into it, people are like, "Oh, wait a second. Yeah, I get this. This makes more sense than we even realized." And it goes through. Most people that don't get it are not studying. That's just the long and the short of it. And so we're actually told, and I'm a Seventh-day Adventist and proud of it. And I'm not going to be, I don't like to boast or anything. But I think it's important to point out here that we are called to study this specifically. And I want to show you that right now. Man, I cannot get my mouse to go in the right direction. There we go. Okay. It says, we should study the nature, the character, and the extent of this specific. She's specifically talking about this spiritual wickedness that happens in the time, the spiritualism. This spiritual wickedness in high places, lest we become the dupes of the powers of darkness. That's as long and the short of it. But she laments and says how difficult it is to awaken the minds. Who is this? Well, this is someone that started the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Not the only person, but she definitely had a lot to say in it and had very, very profound things to say about it. So this is August 5, 1886. But how difficult is it to awaken the minds to realize the continual activity and great earnestness of our wily foe, notwithstanding the warnings and cautions of the Bible and the experience of many who have been overthrown by his subtlety. Very subtle things that are happening. So what else do we say about this? Well, if my keys would work, let's go forward. Let every worker in the master's vineyard study, plan, and devise methods. And I don't know why AI chose a European techno band to be my aliens on the side here, but that's what it looks like to me anyway. Let every worker in the master's vineyard study, plan, and devise methods to reach people where they are. We must do something out of the common course of things. We must arrest the attention. Guys, for me, I think this is speaking to our time right now. Because if you go, and this has been a pet peeve of mine, so I don't usually say those things on the air because, this is being professional, but let me lament to you for a second. When I go to big conventions, GC, there have been other places we've gone that are not church related. Like my wife sometimes goes with her work to something called AACC, and it's another Christian group, but not for It's more medical and stuff. So what's interesting about it is I look at all these different booths, all these different ministries, all these different things, and I find it fascinating that they're all named things like grace and hope, helping the needy, prayers for you. And I think that's all well and good. I think that's fantastic. But it's almost as if we're naming things to get donations. That's not the point of this. Granted, that's how the world runs, and that's how things work, and that's how this works, unfortunately. But that's just the economy and how things go. The love of money kind of directs what people do. I have not done it that way, and it's caused me a lot of grief, and I'm proud of it, because this podcast doesn't sound Christian. It's an outreach, but also an inreach. And so this strange normal that's about to come upon the earth is indeed something very big. But when I reach out to places like ASI, OSI, OCI, all the different, I would say, gatekeepers of whether or not I become a legit ministry or not, people go, oh no, I don't know if we can do this because you sound like you're going to go off the wall on something. I think they should just look at my background and what I've studied. I pretty much believe everything that Amazing Facts has taught because that's where I spent my last 10 years. Study their study guides. You'll study what we present on this presentation platform and go a little further and deeper into the Bible on those things. I'm being very factual with you. This is what she asks us to study. She says, look, every worker in the Master's Vineyard study plan divides methods to reach the people where they are. We must do something out of the common course of things. The common course of things is just doing, we're playing ministry to make our lives spin. This is not the point. We need to reach souls. Some of the methods used in this work will be different from the methods used in the work in the past. But let no one, because of this, block the way by criticism. And so I was asked earlier today, have you ever been criticized? Have you ever been heckled while you're on stage talking about this stuff? No, I really haven't. Usually people just stay silent and they think I'm strange. But are we supposed to be strange? I think so. I prefer the word peculiar. I think we're supposed to be a peculiar people and ones that actually study, people of the Bible, of the Word. And so that's what I am trying to do and being more focused on that. So when we go over some of this stuff, let's be absolutely sure that we're talking from the Word of God. I'm going to go ahead and start the real presentation stuff here. And we're going to roll with it. Now listen to this. Go back. There we go. All right, so there is some legitimacy. We have U.S. presidents actually saying stuff about this. I think there's something happening here that's very important. And we need to consider that although we're not talking about aliens, we're talking about last day spiritualism. That's what we're talking about. When they say things are floating around in the heavens, they're floating around in the sky up there, balls of fire, lights. We're not sure what these things are, but they're floating around up there. They're not talking about UFOs. I mean, technically, that's what you call it, because it's an unidentified phenomenon up there, UFO, flying object, I guess you can say. So that's the new word for spiritualism. That's the new word for, hey, that's a demonic entity up there that's floating around. Whenever you hear the word UFO, think about that. Because UFOs, there's no ET out there that's looking to give us free dental. What there is something that wants to deceive you. And the Bible explicitly says that the king of the air, or the prince of the air, is the devil himself. So let's dig into this real quick. A book I'm reading called Desire of Ages says that there are stars in the heavens, but they're not really stars. Some of them. The wise men, this is back in the time of Bible times, it says, the wise men had seen a mysterious light in the heavens upon that night when the glory of God flooded the hills of Bethlehem. As the light faded, the luminous stars appeared and lingered in the sky. It was not a fixed star nor a planet, and the phenomenon excited the keenest interest. That star was a distant company of shining angels. But of this, the wise men were ignorant. So what was up there? Well, what was up there was a group of angels that looked like a star in the sky. That's why the Revelation calls them the stars of the heavens. And here it is. Satan drew a third of the stars of the heavens and drew them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth and devour her child as soon as it was born. Now that's out of the realm that we're going to talk about today, about the child and it being born and all this other stuff. But it's evident that absolutely this is a real thing. This is the stars of the heaven. So what did Jesus say to the disciples when they asked him about the end of time? To his closest friends, he said, "Do not be deceived." The title of this presentation, "Do not be deceived." Why is that? Well, because he knew the MO of the enemy is to deceive. Satan wanted to pretend to be the snake in the Garden of Eden, something that Eve loved so much. And he did it. And this is how he overthrew her. He pretended to be the snake, and could he someday also pretend to be something else? Matthew 24:4, Jesus answered them, said unto them, "Take heed that no one deceives you, no man deceives you." The coming of the lawless one is in accordance with the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, with all unrighteous deception among those who perish because they did not receive the love of the truth. Now, who is the truth? That's Jesus Christ. We talked about in the first presentation, that they might be saved. So how are you saved? And who is this, the first part of this deception towards? It's definitely towards the atheists, the scientists, the ones who want to believe in an authority, but not a moral authority out there in outer space somewhere. That's what people want to believe. And so that this is their downfall that will eventually creep into the church by becoming more and more saying that we are from far distant galaxies, we are your dead relatives, and we have occupied great places in the cosmos, in heaven. And this is where Eve fell. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord has made, and he said to the woman, "Hath God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden?" And the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the tree of the garden, but not the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden. God said, you shall not eat. God said, you shall not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die." Then the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die." That was the first lie to humanity. "For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God." He was saying, hey, you can be gods. You can be your own moral authority. You're not going to die. He lied to you. And you will know good and evil. Well, at least that much was true. We definitely know about good and evil now. So back in our day, what's going on is that you have the same exact thing happening. Something that people all around know that there's going to be something that's happening right now, a big deal that's happening. You got Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Actually, I have a clip I was going to save and show on this thing, but Jeff Bezos has just said the exact same Elon Musk says, and he says this: "We don't have a second chance. This planet is going to be destroyed someday. We have to get off this planet. We have to go to Mars. We have to go put our stuff on a different planet." And then Mark Zuckerberg is echoing the exact same thing. "We have to put all our data centers on the moon." I mean, you'd think that if something was going to destroy the Earth, it would also destroy the things around it, like the moon. That wouldn't be good to have your data center on the moon if you can't use it. So I think it's kind of ridiculous. But what I think is really fascinating is that all these these very wealthy and very high up people are all echoing the same thing, like they have the same script, like they know something, like they know that there's going to be a big earth-shaking event here pretty soon, and they just haven't told anybody, but they're preparing for it. Now, I'm not into conspiracies. I've said that over and over on the channel. I don't know if Bill Gates is in on something dark, but it really makes me wonder. It really does, when all of a sudden you have a bunch of people echoing the exact same sentiment, doesn't it? Great Controversy says, this is another book I'm reading, page 558. Through two great errors, the immortality of the soul and Sunday sacredness, Satan will bring the people under his deceptions. While the former lays the foundation of spiritualism, the latter creates a bond of sympathy with Rome. Rome being the Catholic Church, which says that she is the mother of all this stuff. So I really want to deeply understand. I know I've gone over this before, but I think it's important that we understand, where in the world do we get this idea that the dead will present themselves as former dead relatives. This is so important. So important. And I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to stop after this and look at the chat to make sure I'm streaming, because I'm not even going to slow down here. In Numbers 25, look at it very deeply, because it says that Israel was joining itself and bowing to Baal. So they were serving their gods. In other words, Israel was God's people, and God was having this war basically over who is a true God with Satan and his minions. And Satan was like, "Look, I can be God too. Look, I can lead these people. I'm just as powerful as you." And God's like, "No, look, you're leading the Egyptians. You're leading the ancient pagans in the Hebrew times, and they're going to pull you've pulled some of them over to some of my people, Israel, over to them through Baal of Peor." Numbers 25, 1-3. Now Israel remained in the Acacia Grove, and the people began to commit harlotry with the woman of Moab. They invited the people to sacrifices of their gods, and people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel was joined to Baal of Peor, and the anger of God was aroused against Israel. They joined themselves to Baal of Peor and ate sacrifices made to the dead. So Psalms kind of gets a more expanded view of this and says, hey, you know what? Those serving Baal was actually also eating sacrifices to the dead. So they believe that these dead people were actually their gods. Baal had brought them back, or they were these gods, and they were worshiping them. So for 1 Corinthians goes into a little bit deeper and says, rather the things that with the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons. And I do not want, and do not to God. And I do not want you to have fellowship with demons. So in other words, they were saying, hey, look, everything that you're serving here, Baal, which you're serving the dead, 8 sacrifices made to the dead, this is all demons. That's all what you're doing here. So anytime you have the dead appear to you or start to talk to you, it's not your dead relative in heaven. That doesn't exist right now. So the soul can die. It can. And we have a explicitly that it says that we will see these same demons performing these signs, which go to the kings of the world and to the whole world, and gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. This is going to happen again. And so I want to be very clear with you guys that this is a big deal, and I think that we should be talking about this more and more. Let me just go to my live stream here and make sure that we are still streaming. We are streaming. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation here, because this is where it gets interesting. All this has kind of been review up until this point. I'm going to present the screen. And got to go forward again. All right. So external, this is where it gets fascinating, because as we near the close of time, there will be a greater and still greater external parade of heathen power. Heathen deities will manifest their signal power and exhibit themselves before the cities of the world. That's part of this deception that's going to continue. When Protestantism shall stretch her hand across the gulf and grasp the hands of Roman power, when she shall reach her hand across the abyss and clasp the hands of spiritualism, when under the influence of this threefold union, the country shall repudiate every principle of its constitution. Boy, That means that's pretty serious if the United States isn't following its Constitution anymore. As a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehoods and delusions, then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan. And the marvelous is not a good thing. It's something to marvel at. And the end is near. And the Great Controversy 558, through the agency of spiritualism, miracles will be wrought, the sick will be healed, which is what we're seeing with Chris Bledsoe right now. And many undeniable wonders will be performed, and as the spirits will profess faith in the Bible, so see the progression of events, and manifest respect for the institutions of the church, their work will be accepted as a manifestation of divine power. And we're going to get through these inspired quotes and go into the actual meat of this in just a second. But I think it's important to reiterate some of the quotes that we've had on here. Great Controversy. This is 1888 edition. It's probably exactly the same in the others. But the papacy is prepared for two classes of mankind to embrace nearly the whole world: those who would be saved in their merits and those who would be saved in their sins. Here's the secret of its power. And that's why you see today, you see all kinds of the Catholic Church. They're sitting down, they're going, hey, you know what? That Mother Mary thing, she's not God. You're saved through Jesus Christ. That's great. They're finally admitting that. But the problem here is they're opening themselves up to be accepting of all the other churches that want to come in and under their mother church. But actually what these are harlots of this great whore. I'm just going to spit it as it says in the Bible, because that's exactly what Revelation calls her. When you have a church that has completely gone out of control and into spiritualism, so you can be deceived by the devil himself, and you have entered in all these things that prevent you from reaching Christ through works and works-based scenario, you have not the true church, not a woman in white, as the Revelation says, but you have a harlot. And all these other little churches are going to come and under her wings here pretty soon. Okay, so here's a clip from Joe Rogan where he's talking to, and tell me in the chat who this is. I'm sure you're going to figure it out real quick. But tell me who he's talking to. He's talking about the Catholic Church and how she's kind of gone crazy, apostate. I want you to see this. This is interesting. Watch this. Hopefully it'll work.
We got a pope that brought a South American idol into the church to worship.
Really?
He did. The Pachamama. He bought the South American, and he got.
I don't know what that is.
It's kind of like a South American god, Pachamama.
Why would he do that?
Good question. But he did.
Did he have an explanation for why he did it?
Yeah, all religions are just as good as one another. But, if that's his contention.
He shouldn't be the Pope.
No. I mean,
how can you be the Pope if you say all religions are just as good?
Yeah, we all worship, The hierarchy even worshipped. They had a ceremony around it outside.
What?
So, well, that constitutes apostasy.
Yeah.
That's an apostasy move, all right?
Worshipping false gods.
Yeah. That's number one on the Mosaic hit list. You know?
Yeah.
Moses goes up on the mountain. He comes back down. People are worshiping a golden calf.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
So you can't do that.
So what do you think there's a motive behind these things?
I don't think probably.
Probably. I want to make sure everyone saw that and that this thing's working correctly. So I'm going to go back to the live stream chat real quick. Sounds great. Judas said, that's the name of the street vendor on my corner. Pachamama. I'll remember this one. Yeah. And so it's working. Okay, good. Let's continue, folks. This is good. I'm glad we fixed that. Wow. All right, so let's dig back into this. That's why the Catholic Church here is going to accept everything. They're trying to gather in as many things as they can, many churches as they can, because these little churches are they consider them the children of the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church considers it the mother church. They say everyone should come back to us because we have the original ideas, and they're working to broaden their ideas so it can come back in. And that's evidenced by that right there. All right, let's get back into the presentation. All right. When they have been led to believe that the dead are actually returned to communicate with them. This is the progression of events, folks. This is how the new religion is formed on earth. They claim to be happy in heaven and even occupy exalted positions there. And thus the error is widely taught that there is no difference made between the righteous and the wicked. In other words, everyone's going to get to heaven. Don't worry about it. Even Hitler got there. No right and wrong. The pretended visitants from the world of the spirits, there's that phrase again. So these things are pretending to be visitants from the world of the spirits. Sometimes utter cautions and warnings which prove to be correct. Then as confidence is gained, they present doctrines that directly undermine the faith in the scriptures. With an appearance of deep interest in the well-being of their friends on earth, they insinuate that the most dangerous errors have happened. The fact that they state some truths and are able to at times to foretell the future events gives to their statements an appearance of reliability. And their false teachings are accepted by the multitudes as readily and believed as implicitly as if they were the most sacred truths of the Bible. Now, here's where it really gets fascinating, because these are the 4 new doctrines that are instituted when these new spiritualism appears on earth as beings from far distant galaxies, as Roger Minot says, as White says in The Great Controversy 552. These are in orange here. Read what it says with me. It says the law of God is set aside. Okay, so that's one. We expect that the law to be to be put aside, because you can't have the truth without the law. It says the spirit of grace will be despised. Wow. So don't give anybody grace. In fact, grace of Christ wasn't a real thing. So we need to focus on justice. The blood of the covenant is counted as an unholy thing. Wow, blood of the covenant. They're really attacking Christ with this. And the next sentence says that. Number 4, the spirits deny the deity of Christ and place even the Creator on level with themselves. Thus, under a new disguise, the great rebel still carries on his warfare against God, begun in heaven and for nearly 6,000 years continued upon earth. So as you can see, that there is, it's not just going to be, and this is what I grew up thinking. As a Seventh-day Adventist, I knew it has something to do with the state of the dead. I knew something to do with Sunday. That's it. That's all. That's as far as I went. But reading this stuff, I'm like, wow, wait a second here. This is going to be an event that lets everybody decide. Are you going to follow the Bible? Or are you going to follow this new spiritualism that appears? God is so merciful, friends, that he's willing to let Satan present all of his bad doctrines and say, hey, look, let's make this a distinct line. Let's not be subtle about it, because eventually it's going to get to this point where he's going to have to draw a line in sand. It's going to be subtle up until that point. You're going to have these beings come from a long distance away. We see them as UAPs right now in the air. And then gradually, as time goes on, it's going to be, oh yeah, they're angels. Oh yeah, the angels are our friends from heaven. There are dead relatives, and they just want us to know the truth, that we are just like them, that we can be on the level of the Creator himself. What is that? That's exactly what the snake said. You can be as God, knowing good and evil. We are not to be as God. That's what got us in trouble with the whole thing in the first place. So the next video I want to show you is of Ryan Swigler. He was a former Satanist, and I talked about this guy quite a bit on the channel. He's a former Satanist that says he found Christ. And I want to be very clear that the dangers and the weapons that Satan has here is being able to introduce emotionalism into your brain just as a vision. Listen to how he thinks Christ presents himself. And I'll tell you more about his story in just a second. Watch this.
I did this interview, and in this interview I said, I don't believe that Jesus Christ exists. After that interview, I had a meeting with council members at the church, and they said, okay, great, now we've done all these interviews and people know, and it's growing, Satanism is growing, and believe me people, it is. And I had to do a ritual by myself to see, how do I get more power, more influence? And I did this ritual and I opened myself up, and Jesus appeared, and I was extremely cocky. And I said, if you are Jesus, you need to prove it. And he flooded me with the most beautiful love and energy, and I recognized it immediately.
All right, so how do we know? How does he know? This is key, folks. How does he think he knows that Christ is who he says he is? Because he flooded him with energy? It was the most beautiful love he's ever experienced? Does God ever work with emotionalism? In fact, I don't see anywhere in the Bible where he floods anybody with love to show that he is truly God. But the deception goes further than that. You don't have to just take this one concept and run with it. The weapon that he used against them was emotionalism, making him feel as if it was correct. I often wonder if that's what the Mormons feel, because they always say, I knew when I read The Pearl of Great Price or the Book of Mormon, I should call them Latter-day Saints because that's what they want to be called. If this was what they felt was correct, the burning in the bosom, is this God or not? Because it's either God or not, if you understand what I'm saying. This is not God. And as Jesus, I'm using my finger quotes for those listening, as Jesus presented himself to him, he also presented that you can be as God as well. You can be your own God. And so then I knew it wasn't Jesus that was talking to this man. When he did a ritual to present himself as furthering the cause of Satan, he deceived himself to further the cause of Satan. So it worked. But it worked in a way that made him the vehicle in which he's going to push Satanism into Christian churches. And you have all these podcasters, one in particular that I just watched today, that has had him on 4 times and is just singing his glory, saying, it's so great that you became a Christian, because Christians don't know who God is. I just said that. I'm not sure if that was proper or not. All right, so let's move on with this.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
So we're going along the theme of what are the weapons that Satan has against us. This is David Grutch. He's a whistleblower, if you want to call him that. Some don't call him a whistleblower because he has specific talking points that he's allowed to talk about, and whistleblowers don't have talking points. But he has specifically said that, look, there have been malevolent events like that have killed individuals, killed military men. And so if you have Satan, if you have demonic entities that are supposedly superior than everyone else, if I think it's just E.T. I mean, think about this. If we go to another planet that has a bunch of monkeys on it, this is hypothetical, don't you think we would be very careful not to step on them? Don't you think we would have technology that would say, oh, okay, we know that they are in this area. Don't put your step back or shoot your rockets off right now. We might destroy them. I think that if these things are so advanced, and if they are ET, but they're not, that they would have that same ability. And yet, you can see it right here. Satan has the rules of engagement. He can destroy human life if God allows it to. So be very careful about approaching these things, having anything to do with these balls of fire, because apparently the military has also had issues with this. Okay, next.
This summer, we got a call. We didn't reach out. This person called us. Lexi, who's standing right there, who's a genius, one of our producers, gets this call from this guy who's a tenured Stanford medical school professor, and he wants to come on the show. Now, this guy has a couple patents, and so he's rich. And he's got tenure at one of the most prestigious schools in the world. So, like, he's not a flake. He comes on and he's like, 11 years ago, the US government reached out to me because I'm an expert on head injuries, on brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, as a physician. And they had all these court cases from families of US servicemen, over 100, who'd been killed by UFOs. And the Department of Defense was refusing to give them death benefits or medical benefits. And I'm like, and he's like, so they're in the courts. And I was like, there are over 100 servicemen killed by UFOs? Like, what? He's like, yeah, and there are court cases about it. I'm like, why isn't this on the front page of the New York Times? I don't know. But he goes, I'm involved in it. I'm one of the researchers. I'm the expert witness in these cases.
So this just gives you more legitimacy to what's going on here. You see that this absolutely does happen, and if you shouldn't have anything to do with this stuff. You see this stuff, you go the other way. You pray. You ask God to take care of it, because this is a spiritual entity. They will disappear. God will take care of it. It is an important thing that we make sure that we know how to take care of this. I have my presentation before this, on the first presentation, showing that Joe Jordan has shown that hundreds and hundreds of people have come to him. And the only way to get rid of it is by claiming the name Jesus Christ. That works 95% of the time. 5% of the time, it's the people that have pushed away the Holy Spirit that it's very difficult to get that away if you've pushed away the Holy Spirit the whole time. So be very careful. But God is so merciful that if you're still feeling a desire to be a part of this, you haven't pushed away the Holy Spirit. But be very careful, because we want everyone to be in heaven. Okay, next video.
Whatever the phenomenon is, it's capable of manipulating human perception, human consciousness.
Right.
It can make us see things that aren't there.
I mean, the best example of this that I know is a story that Jacques Vallée brought to me of a family in France driving down the highway. This was like in the last 5 to 10 years. And they had a glass-topped car. And they look up and they see a UFO, basically paralleling them down the highway. The mother looks around and sees that no other individuals nearby are freaking out about this thing above them. The children in the back take out their cell phones, take a picture of it. They get home and they look at the pictures on their camera and they don't see an object. They see a little star-shaped thing about 30 so feet above it, and I have the picture. Even if it was an object, that was there. Others weren't capable of seeing it, so it was manipulating vision. So yes is the short answer.
All right, so what do we see there? Well, it can manipulate vision. It can give you visions, just as we see in Daniel, when Daniel was given the vision by God through the angel, and he felt such a powerful vision that it basically knocked him out. And the angel's like, okay, look, I'll come back. And he leaves and he prays for it to continue, and it comes back and he receives the rest of the vision. It can manipulate your perceived ideas. That's why at the end of Starfall, if you haven't watched the movie Starfall movie, go to starfallmovie.com. Excuse me. And I say at the very end, hey, look, you're gonna the typical physics, the typical what you see with your eyes, you can't trust anymore. Because you could be manipulated. What you have to believe, what has to be your foundation of truth, it has to be the Word of God. Because if they can insert things into your reality, images, things, beings, whatever it is, you can't trust it. If your dead father, your dead mother, your dead aunt, your dead grandmother, grandfather comes to you, son, that's an augmented reality, for lack of a better word, and you can't say, well, this is what this is. Don't trust it. Don't trust your reality. And so that's why it's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it possession, but it's definitely an augmented form of reality that you're receiving right now, that Gary Nolan just said. And he's a Stanford medical professor that has looked into some of this stuff. Granted, he's not a Christian. He doesn't live Christian life, but he's legitimately trying to understand what this is all about. And the final lie, I guess the final deception, the final weapon they have against you is the ability to lie. Listen to this. And he said to him, this is from 2 Kings 16:17, before we go into that clip. And he answered, "Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them." And Elisha prayed and said, "Lord, I pray thee, open thy eyes that he may see." And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses, chariots, and fire around Elisha. Why did I insert this in here? Well, this is the exact presentation showing that angels, spiritual warfare is happening all around us, and the veil can be lifted, or it can be shown to us what is happening. Do you think that all these men on horses were actually angels, or do you think this was an augmented reality to give him peace? I don't think that there's a bunch of demons and good angels on horses right now helping us. But I do believe that God shows us what we need to see in order for us to be relieved and to have faith that he's with us. And so Satan can do something similar. And so we have to be on guard with our belief about what is real and what is not. Okay, so the next video I have for you is from CBN, Christian Broadcast Network. It's a well-known broadcast, and they said they were able to see things that were happening. Oftentimes, Christians don't believe that Satan can do good. He can only lie. He can only do bad. But there are familiar spirits. There are friendly spirits. They're all demon spirits, and they can definitely pretend to do something good. They can say truth, just as Satan said, partly from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but he'll insert a lie just in the right way because he knows exactly what you'll take. So this next clip, it's hard to tell what's going on here, but I want you to listen to it. Watch this.
A pillar of fire at night and confused Russian troops. It has some asking, are Ukrainians receiving heavenly help?
There's some miracle happened. It looked like some spaceship, like there was like an attack from the spaceship. There was some kind of a lightnings was starting shooting from the sky, and like sparks were like spreading everywhere. And then on the morning, they've discovered that the whole machinery was destroyed.
So you got to ask yourself, this guy that's talking, he's not crazy. He's actually the director over in Ukraine of this whole Christian Broadcast Network, and he's like, look, this is what we saw. We saw crazy stuff happen, and I just got to admit that whatever it was, it either helped us or it pretended to help us. Could it be that at the end of time we'll see something like this happen and they'll be helping us? A lot of people have been wondering about this 3i Atlas thing and wondering if this will be the beginning of spiritualism on Earth being more open. I don't believe so. I don't think that we've had many interstellar anomalies come through our solar system, and it doesn't mean that they are bringing, the world believes they're bringing aliens, but it doesn't mean that Satan's going to use that to forward this spiritualism. What I do and what I see as evidence by the testimonies that have happened is that a lot of things that start to happen with spiritualism usually becomes from disaster and terrible things that happen to people. Then all of a sudden you start to see spiritualism. So at the beginning of the intro to this program, Chris Bledsoe in the intro says that exact same thing. He says, all this starts to happen. It has started to happen to me when I started to suffer. And so when calamities come upon the world, that's when we're going to start to see spiritualism rear its ugly head a lot more. And I'd be very concerned about what's going on in this world with China, with Russia, with the United States. I think we're on the cusp of something, and no one's talking about it right now. Yeah, China. I think we're going to go to war with China. I really do. We have Taiwan that they want back, just like Russia wants Ukraine. And we have said both that we will defend them because we want to be the police of every nation for some reason. And I think that's going to get us in a lot of trouble. So this next clip is the Bledsoe's son, Ryan, saying that they're guiding us saying that when he has these testimonies come, he says they say that we are right here. Watch this.
They gave him a message. They gave him a long message, you know. They said they're the guardians. They said that they work for creation, that they created us, they protect us from the forces of darkness and things like that. And through the aeons, meaning, you know, the ages, thousands and thousands of years, they have sort of like overseen our, you could say, evolution.
So this is the message that they provide to them. They're going to lie. They're just going to, and so that's the final weapon they have against us is, yeah, they can destroy, stay away from them. Yeah, they can lie to us. Don't let them talk to you. Yeah, they can present themselves as something good that they are doing for us. Be very careful what you accept. And they can also make you see things that aren't there. They can present themselves as the dead. I'm going back through my notes here. And another thing, the final thing I wanted to show you was that that this can happen also this did happen also in Egypt. Because the snake in Exodus 7:11, let me bring that up here. This was interesting. They can physically manifest just as they did in the Bible. So, and this is the point I'm making on this. If they can make it appear as if there was a snake, if they can make it appear as if there's blood in the water, if they can make it appear as if there are frogs, and they couldn't do the lice. They just couldn't do it because there's a limit to what they can and cannot do. If that's the case, then we need to be very careful what we believe that we are seeing as well. Because if we are seeing craft in the sky, if we are seeing physical things that the government has been given as gifts to reverse engineer, it doesn't mean that they're from another planet. It doesn't mean that they are here to help us. It doesn't mean anything. It's the same exact lie that they can do. They can create physical objects, just as they created these things for Egypt, and they will do it again. You know, it's going to be a little bit different because back then they were very concerned about agriculture. So they made things that affected their agriculture. Now, we're not concerned about agriculture. We're not concerned about snakes like Eve was. We're concerned about global health care and technology that would solve the energy problem, the food crisis, feeding the homeless, getting off the planet, maybe 0-point energy or some kind of anti-gravity energy. These are all the things that scientists really lust after today. And Satan knows that, so that's what he's going to provide for them. I think Spirit of Prophecy actually says that. There's going to be a desire for health. So that's exactly what's happening now. And have there ever been agreements with angelic entities in the Bible? We need to watch out for that as well, because this has happened before and will happen again. There has been agreements. Listen to this. The fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that was a contractual agreement. You take it from me, you eat it, you are mine. Or what about powers like the Simpson, the sorcerer, or the Witch of Endor? This was a contractual agreement that, yeah, I'll show you things. Or maybe I could just use this for my business. And what about supernatural strength? Can that be given by demonic entities? Well, it can definitely be given by good entities. So why not demonic as well, like Samson? And Jesus was offered food, power, influence, wealth, and allegiance if he would only bow down and serve Satan. So these agreements between different entities can and will happen probably again. And we need to know that perhaps, just saying perhaps, this has already happened with some of our governments. I'm not saying the entire government, but some of the departments. The government's a big thing. You can't say the government has, or the government has done this and the government has done that. There have been groups that are deeply into the dark side of the things, and they have done some very, very, very bad things. Think back on Project Whitecoat. This isn't conspiracy. This is actual fact. When they decided, oh yeah, we'll just do a bunch of tests on the ones that don't want to go to war and want to, they want to be nice to people. You should, if you don't know about Project Whitecoat, you should go research it. It's very interesting. Gave them a bunch of diseases. Our own government did. So let's go further into this just real quick. Snake Pharaoh, we already talked about. Exodus 22, Exodus the frogs, the lice. We already talked about the sorcerer. So if demonic entities can perform miracles by making physical objects appear, why wouldn't we think that humanity can benefit from gifts of technology that the government thinks are ET ships? This is the idea of Prometheus. And this is a Greek mythology that happened, or did it? We're not sure. But the mythology says that Prometheus gave humanity fire in exchange for something. Why wouldn't that happen today? Why wouldn't there be an exchange of something today? We're getting really into the woo-woo here. And so I'm just going to say, could it be at this point? But we, as Christians, need to be ready for major deceptions like this, because we can't just stop and say, well, I guess everything I believe about Christianity isn't true. If all of a sudden you're going to have the Vatican holding some UFO craft that legitimately looks like it's from Hollywood. Watch this.
You say it's a 90-year cover-up?
Just about, yeah.
90 years?
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle.
It's long been known that the regime of dictator Benito Mussolini documented numerous UAP during this time. This internal memo from the Italian secret services includes crude drawings of the UAPs. It's true, it's real.
Yeah, that actually happened. The Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945. And, you know, the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
Okay, so that's interesting, right? I want to tell you guys that this isn't the presentation that I'm going to do at the next event we're doing, but that's next weekend. We will be, Joe Jordan and I will be in Idaho, and we will be doing these presentations in Idaho. I'll be flying into Spokane and traveling to Idaho, and we're going to do these where? Let me show you real quick so you know exactly where we're going to be. I think it's important that if you want to make it there, you can be there, because I have had people email me and say, well, what is it? Where are you going to be? How are you going to get, are you going to be in Spokane, or are you going to be in Idaho? Well, it's the top of Idaho, very close, I think, to Spokane. And if that's something where you're at, then you should come visit where we're going to be. We're going to be doing a presentation at the church, and also at a, I believe it's at either a golf course or a hotel publicly on Sunday. And so the public presentation is going to be obviously different than the church presentation, but anybody that that wants to come should be welcome, should come, because it's going to be spectacular. It's going to be very good. Email me, bradley@strangenormal.org. I'll give you details on that, and you can join there too. And by the way, if you enjoy this content, I think you should also join our Discord. Patreon.com/strangenormal will get you in there, and you can pick from a variety of different ways to help us continue this message and push forward the, because as things start to close up and wrap up, you don't want to be the one that's out of the know. So join our private community, and it's in this forum called discord. Not that we are discording, but make sure that we all know what is happening in this different form. You should join us. Patreon.com/strangenormal. Okay, so what else are we talking about? So if this Vatican things, if this is true in 1933, and we all have to say, if, because you don't know, no one's seen it yet. This is a government whistleblower that has come out and said this. But if they own a craft and they have been speaking to what they call non-human intelligence, which is demons, then it would be a little bit concerning, wouldn't it? I mean, wouldn't you be concerned that your government is talking to these things? Both should be concerned about, both these NHI and the Vatican have both expressed their concern with climate change. So it's all coming together real easy here, because climate change seems like the floating benefactor that is kind of easing this whole thing together. So what else happens?
You say it's a 90-year cover-up.
Yeah.
Just about,
It's
yeah.
90 years.
90 years.
1933 was the first recovery in Europe.
What is going on?
Magenta, Italy.
It just disappeared. Hold on. Where's that? All right. Did we go too far? Yeah, we did. Okay. The miracles, okay, so this is Darkness Before the Dawn. This is part of the Great Controversy. It says, the miracle working power manifested through spiritualism will exert its influence against those who choose to obey God rather than men. Communication from the spirits will declare that God has sent them to convince the rejectors of Sunday of their error, affirming that the law of the land should be obeyed as the law of God. They will lament the great wickedness in the world, and the testimony of religious teachers that the degraded state of moral is caused by the desecration of Sunday. Great will be the indignation excited against all who refuse to accept their testimony. So in other words, I think it's important to point out that they're coming to present the sins of the world, basically. And this is why it's important to get right with God, make sure your sins are all forgiven, make sure you are upright, because if you don't have these forgiven sins, they can as soon as they appear, they're going to start saying, well, Susie over here, she's been committing adultery, and Alan over here, he has been lying on his taxes, and they're going to just present it all. And the government is going to eat it up, because they're going to be like, oh, we got to get this fixed quick. Think about what the government's doing right now. You got all the presidency, and there could be some Epstein files that are released on Trump, and everyone's, just foaming at the mouth about this stuff right now. What if these things come back and say, hey, by the way, we know all the problems, and there has been extreme wickedness. Let me tell you about them, so you can put away these terrible people. In fact, the worst offenders are the remnant, or what we consider the remnant, are the ones that believe they need to keep a moral law, instead of just believing that you're going to get to heaven no matter what. Let me show you how they've offended the law. Let me show you where they have problems. I don't know how they're going to do this. Are they going to present a list up and show it on through the sky? Are they going to put it on TV? Are they going to have it? Are they going to give a document, a USB file to the president and go, hey, look, these are all the people that are the worst offenders. Go get them. Or could it be that they just say, hey, look, anybody that's not going to follow your religious ideas, which we are going to present as true, they are the problem. And we can tell you more about those people. It's time to get right with God. It's time to put away the terrible. It's time to do away with addictions. All right, soapbox over. Let me see if I can pull this back a little bit. That was Darkness Before the Dawn. And finally, I think this is one of my last slides. By this time, the 144,000 were all sealed and perfectly and united. On their foreheads was written God, New Jerusalem, and the glorious star containing Jesus' new name. At our happy and holy state, the wicked were enraged, and they would rush violently up to lay hands on us and thrust us in prison. When we would stretch forth the hand in the name of the Lord, and the wicked would fall helplessly to the ground, then it was the synagogue. Then it was that the synagogue of Satan knew that God had loved us, who could wash one another's feet and salute the holy brethren with a holy kiss. And they worshipped at our feet. So why did I include this? Well, I think it's fascinating that ultimately God's going to show that who the true followers of him are. We will be lighted up in his glory, and the sinners will worship at the feet. I think there's even a quote that talks about how there will be a time when all this, they will say, God put in a good word for us with God, and we'll be like, well, how can we do that? But I thought it was interesting. She said they will rush violently against us to lay hands on us and to thrust us in prison when we would stretch forth our hand in the name of the Lord, and the wicked would fall helplessly to the ground. Did we do that? Are we using the force to knock them down? No. But it's interesting that Hollywood has kind of taken it this way and said that you have to use the force that's inside you. Is it inside us? No. It's angels helping us. And when we realize that, it gets rid of the glory and the ego that comes with the idea that we have done something. Because it's not us that are doing any miracles. It's not us that are doing the force. It's God. He's protecting us. But we still have to step forth and show what we want, what we have chosen. And we have to say, what'd she say? We would stretch forth our hand in the name of the Lord. That's not kinetic abilities. That's saying, God, help me. Fascinating. That's all I really got. But I want to go into some interesting stuff that I think is current events that might be interesting. Let me first go back to the live stream, make sure I'm still streaming here. All right, do y'all still hear me? Am I still here? Because it's been a wild ride of a night, and I've lost people and gained people, and hopefully you guys have stuck with me the whole time. All caps. Why are we talking about caps? Let's see. Hey, can everyone come back? Everyone's focused in the chat. Everyone, hey, anybody here? Hello. Okay, everyone says we can hear you. All right, good. Glad everything's working. Let's go into something that's happened this week. I thought now that we're all caught up on what could happen, on what the Bible says has happened, and where we're going with this whole thing, maybe it's a good idea to actually understand what is the current events that have happened this week. And I don't know how far we're going to go into that. I made some things, but I wasn't impressed with the current events. But it's still interesting. So let me pull up my notes. Okay, so before we go into the UAP stuff, understanding this whole thing, I think it's good to also cover a little bit of AI and where that stands right now. Currently, we have a new unique AI called the Nolux. It looks like it just sits there and dances. Watch this, and then we'll go further into what's happening.
TikTok.
for under $1,000, you can have this little Notix robot, and it stands about 3 foot high, and it's it'll do a little dance moves for you. I don't know what else it can do, but I think it's really funny that this is how they're funding their next big robot, I guess, because they're advertising this little cute robot. You can have a little cute AI in your house, so that at night it wakes up and does terrible things to you. I don't want that thing in my house. If it can walk around and has a mind of its own. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Okay, and speaking of AI, did you know that the top of the charts right now is it's infuriating all the music producers, because the top of the charts in the country music realm, I guess on Spotify, is a AI made song with no author really, because it's computer generated, but people have really enjoyed it. This is something. Let me show you this video clip.
It's the hot new country song at the top of the charts with a catchy tune sung by a handsome cowboy. But don't hold your breath to see him sing it live, because he's not real. The singer and the song were created with AI technology. Les Trent shows us how easy it was to make a #1 song.
He's a ruggedly handsome country singer with a strong voice destined for stardom.
Ain't no shame in where I belong.
His name is Breaking Rust, and now his song Walk My Walk is #1 on Billboard's Country Digital Song Sales chart.
Isn't that fascinating? I mean, right now we're having AI take over a lot of things. And so I'll show you, I can let this clip go on and on and on and just talk about it. But really, well, I mean, let's look at this. This is, I pulled this just minutes ago. This is the top charts, Viral 50 Global. It's at number 5, and it doesn't have any instruments. It's all been done with AI. That's really blows my mind, because now you don't have to be even an artist or know how to play any instrument. You just make a really good song with AI, and now you've hit the top of the charts. That makes everyone a musician, and it's gonna just cause all kinds of havoc. But that's not the only one. I mean, for instance, this is from Walmart CEO. AI is literally going to change every job. I mean, we've gone over this, but this is the latest that he's said about this. He's like, by the way, we're going to change everything. And then a long time ago, or a while ago, Salesforce says that we're getting rid of 4,000 customer services roles because AI has stepped up. And so let's play a little game. Let's say, I'm looking at the chat now. I want you guys to tell me what is AI and what's not, because we're getting to the point where I'm not sure if it's going to be, we're going to be able to tell the difference. So I want you to watch these clips and tell me if these are AI. We're going to talk through it. Are you guys watching? Watch this, watch this. Is this AI? Yeah, it's AI. You're exactly right. This is AI. And it's getting hard to know because it throws your emotions and makes you think, oh man, oh, they just now saw their puppy after so long. They didn't recognize him. And then they saw him. And it tricked me for first few ones. And then I had to, we were watching and go, there's something odd about this. Every single dog acts exactly the same and pauses for the exact same amount of time. What is up with that? But it looks so real. Okay, so next one. Next one is this one right here. Is this AI? Is this AI? Cast your vote now. Is the plane one AI? I'm going to play it again. Is the plane one AI? What do you say? All right, so this is the cast your vote. Believe it or not, this is not AI. I looked up and was careful. I looked up the director's name. I looked up the pilot's name. They create these very close encounters with aircraft for airline commercials. They have a Twitter. They have directors, and they are very professional at what they do about this. This is not AI. But it'll trick you, won't it? All right, so next one. What about this one? Is this AI? Cast your vote. I'll play it again. All right. Hope everyone has cast their vote. This is real. He really went over here and started dancing in Malaysia. You can look that up. He got off the plane, I guess, and they had a little dance for him. And I thought it was AI because I thought they would never let this many people get this close to Air Force One. But this is not AI. Okay, so next one. Another airplane one. Is this AI? Airplane. The guy's throwing the luggage inside the airplane. Is this AI? One more time. We're going to play it again. One more time. Last time. Yeah, you're right. I didn't see it, but it does say Sora at the top, so it is AI. Yes, you caught me. I thought I was getting good ones, but yeah, Sora is where all this junk is coming from right now, and Sora is definitely AI. All right, so let me see if I have one more in here. What is this one? Okay, so is this AI? Is the Comet AI? We'll play this again. Very good. Jeff says, this is real. This is real. Hans says, this is real. This is real. Judah said, this is real. It is real. This is absolutely real. In fact, I just saw one last night. I was laying on my bed and I was in Chattanooga here. I was just tapping around on my phone looking for videos. And I out of the corner of my eye, it got really bright outside. And I looked outside and this giant comet was streaking across this, probably about half as much as this one. But it was green in color and gold at the same time, this exact same one. So I thought that would be interesting to show up here that we're seeing that same stuff happening as well. And so that's a great transition into something that has been seen for quite a while, which are things in the sky. So let's transition into the UAP just for a moment, because this is interesting. They discovered something fascinating by looking at old pictures of the sky. Look at this real quick. This is interesting.
All right, for the future of everything, now to what might be the most consequential news of the week, of the month, or even the decade, or the century. Bear with me. I know I get a little bit stoked about this stuff, but there are two scientific papers that just dropped that absolutely blew my mind. You know, there's been so much talk about whether aliens exist. You got the UAP hearings, all those black and white military videos, drones in the sky, then obviously AI making things even more confusing. Well, for me, there are two papers that are out right now that just cut through all of the noise by going back in time and taking a look at sky survey plates from the 40s and 1940s and 1950s. Basically, these are pictures of our night sky and all the stars night after night.
All right, so there's an echo. I'm seeing that there's an echo. Let me fix that real quick. I got to get this all fixed before the next program. Why is there an echo now? Let's check here. That was this one. Output routing. Let's go mix minus. All right, so see if this works. Let's rerun this again. All right, here we go.
All right, for the future of everything, now to what might be the most consequential news of the week, of the month, or even the decade, or the century. Bear with me. I know I get a little bit stoked about this stuff, but there are two scientific papers that just dropped that absolutely blew my mind. You know, there's been so much talk about whether aliens exist. You got the UAP hearings, all those black and white military videos, drones in the sky, then obviously AI making things even more confusing. Well, for me, there are two papers that are out right now that just cut through all of the noise by going back in time and taking a look at sky survey plates from the 40s and 1940s and 1950s. Basically, these are pictures of our night sky and all the stars night after night before humans ever sent anything into space. This is pre-Sputnik, pre-Apollo, like nothing metallic, nothing reflective should have been orbiting planet Earth, right? Well, guess what? There were lights in the sky that they still can't explain. They call these transients. Sometimes they were there, sometimes they weren't. Take a look at this right here. So this is the night sky, September 1952. September 1952 on the 14th, a little bit later. July 1952. All of these three, they look the same, except for right here. What the heck is that? What is this little blob of lights? It wasn't there, and then it was. This is where things get weirder. These papers found that they were most likely to be seen, thousands of these, most likely to be seen when nukes were being tested here on Earth and when lots of people reported seeing UFOs. Again, this is before we ever launched a single satellite. This picture right here, the dates around this, the one that we were just talking about, the dates were around a time when UFOs were seen for several hours over Washington, D.C., the White House, the Capitol building, air traffic controllers. They reported seeing them on their radar all around those dates, July 1952. And joining us now is one of the authors of both of those papers, Beatrice Villarroel. She's an astronomer at the Nordic Institute of Theoretical Physics in Stockholm. Beatrice, thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations on both these papers. Let's start with as simple of a question as possible here. These lights in the sky from before Sputnik, were these artificial objects orbiting Earth before we were ever in space?
From what we see, these kind of transients or flashes that you see, they have a very interesting feature. You usually get these kind of flashes when you have something that is very flat and very reflective, and in a, let's say, in a geosynchronous orbit at, let's say, 42,000 kilometers.
Wait, hold on. Very flat, very reflective in geosynchronous orbit. That doesn't sound
around the Earth,
natural, yes. Right? Yeah.
Yes, and the funny thing is that we can show that there are solar reflections because there is a deficit of them in the Earth's shadow at these altitudes, and that means that at least a fraction of the transients of these flashes that we're looking at, like 30-35%, appear to be due to these solar reflections of such objects. And if we think about that, these transients come from images taken before the first human satellite, they do look pretty artificial. Although I would say that nature can always surprise us with things that we just can't imagine right now.
But I got to ask you, you know, there are thousands, tens of thousands of these, if I understand it correctly, maybe even more. What did you think when you started to see a correlation between nuclear testing that was going on around that same time, also these UFO sightings that were happening around the United States? That correlation, did that stick out to you right away? Were you kind of sketched out by it?
Well, like the first time when we saw that, it was by coincidence. My friend David Altman, he tells me about Washington flap, 1952. And then by chance, I discovered that our best candidate, when we were looking for our land transients, also came from the same Washington 1952 flap, just from the other weekend, because it was distributed over 2 weekends. And I was like, this is weird. And then that was what formed the hypothesis that we wanted to test. Is there a correlation in time between these transients and UFO events? And we see it's a weak correlation, but it's statistically significant. And we find that.
I mean, you strike me as a very open-minded scientist, which is what science is supposed to be all about. But what do you think this might be?
Well, I mean, here we can only speculate wildly. If we look at the numbers, like just from the Northern Hemisphere, we have 35,000 transients. I don't know how many of these come from what. I mean, one object could give several transients, but it's also possible that we're missing a lot of transients. So I would estimate it to be somewhere between tens of thousands to maybe 100,000 of objects, or 100,000 of objects or so around the Earth. And artificial, it's a possibility. Who knows? Like if it's some ancient space trash from some past civilization, or if we are having some probes that came from another planet. I don't know. I hope that some astronomers that are like well trained with working with this kind of data. I'm talking about professional astronomers that will want to try to redo the same analysis, both with Palomar but also with other surveys and other plates. I mean, other plate surveys in particular, because that could really be helpful. Because we need to see if this result can be replicated with other surveys, and if it is, then it's going to be extremely fun, or not.
As a human on planet Earth, who made this discovery, what's the significance to you?
I just want to know what these objects are, and I want to know why they are here. So, I don't know really what I can say. It's just I'm curious, and that's it.
And that is science. Beatrice, thank you so very much for joining us. And again, congratulations.
Well, you know probably what I think this is. I think this is, we're seeing, if this is before satellites, this is before things that should exist up there in the sky, and images are being captured of what appears to be transient stars, up to 35,000 different ones. Stars of the heavens. Stars of the heavens. And this is why the Bible says the dragon swept a third of the stars of the heavens. Because that's what they appear as. These weird fiery orbs in the sky. That's what they have been shown to be. Okay, so it's interesting. I like to say, could it be that what we're seeing are UAP? Could it be what we're seeing are the default form of these demonic entities? Could it be? I don't know. But I think it's interesting that that's what we're seeing right now. That's what they're pulling things out that are like, oh yeah, by the way, we see this, that, and the other thing. I've got a few more videos for you, but how are we doing tonight? I'm not sure if I should continue, or because a lot of the stuff I wasn't too impressed with, to be honest. I thought it was interesting, so I'm going to present some interesting clips now that I've presented the spiritual side of things. And so since we're all on the same page here, let's just listen to, I think it's about 4 minutes of this is a former CIA spy. He has a YouTube podcast right now called Everyday Spy. His name is Andy. Well, officially Andrew Bustamante. He actually runs it, both him and his wife. They met as spies. They were both spies in the military, and they were encouraged to get married and date while they were spies, because there's a lot of stuff that you just can't tell your significant other, and if you marry another spy, then you at least they understand where you're coming from, because you both have to keep secrets from them. Anyway, he runs he's out of it now, and he runs a YouTube channel talking about being a spy, and it's actually very interesting. He's written a couple books, but he's been asked recently on a podcast about what he thinks and what the military thinks about these UAP stuff. And I think he gives a very, very thoughtful answer. So I'm going to show you that right now.
But I ended up going to a military academy. I went to the Air Force Academy. And from the Air Force Academy, I go into the Air Force.
This is him.
The Air Force teaches me how to fly. They teach me a foreign language. And then they teach me about nuclear weapons and nuclear missiles. And I serve as a nuclear missile officer in the Air Force. So CIA picked me up. And in my first day on the job in CIA, that's the day that I met my wife.
All right. So he met his wife. I guess I included that in there.
There's also been a lot of speculation, righteously so, I think, by a lot of people, that the things we're seeing are products of super advanced intelligence-related technology, not always necessarily our own, but yeah, certainly DARPA or CIA at the front end of that. So, number one, has your opinion changed or moved at all on that? And number two, what are you guys going to be focused on and looking forward to?
So, I really appreciate where you're going with this, and I also really appreciate that you are so accurate and specific in the words that you use to describe my relationship with the
I hit the wrong button.
Phenomenon. Because what I have seen personally is that there is some strange shit that happens that doesn't have explanation. It doesn't have explanation in like normal civilian terms. It doesn't have it defies explanation in known science and known scientific terms. Equipment gives results that don't make sense according to how the equipment is supposed to work. I mean, and then of course on top of that, there's a whole world of secrets that we don't have access to. But even as we take this to my network of FBI, CIA, NSA, police, even as we expand and ask questions in my own personal network, the feedback that continuously comes back is that they are also stumped. So there really is something strange. There really is some kind of phenomenon that is consistent, is measurable, is witnessable, and is happening in our planet's atmosphere, right? And sometimes that phenomenon happens underground. Sometimes that phenomenon happens on the surface. Sometimes that phenomenon happens in the sky. I am more convinced than ever that there is something happening. I am not any more convinced that it is alien in nature, but I am more and more confident that it does defy science as we understand science today, right? Energy signatures, transient physical evidence, like somehow you can see gaps in GPS data, gaps in geospatial data, gaps in energy returns. Like, it's the strangest thing, man. And nobody can explain it. Experts in their field can't explain it. Technical experts with the equipment can't explain it. Physicists, astrophysicists, like scientists can't explain it, but it happens and it's consistent, not everywhere, but in certain places. So why the hell is it that when I'm in a strange ranch in southern Colorado, I see the same weird shit that I see in the mountains of Nevada, but I don't see either of, like, those two things are consistent. But then when I go to someplace in Tennessee, we don't see shit. How does that happen? How is it, how is it that I can go one city over, I can go one national park or one state park over to where the terrain is exactly the same, granite rock to granite rock, but energy signatures are different, geospatial data is different, magnetic anomalies are different. How does that happen? Right? And why does that happen? I don't think that it's alien. The proof that I'm seeing is not that it's alien, but the proof that I'm seeing is sure as hell that it is weird, it's fascinating, and it shows the untapped advantages that a weapon system could get if it could figure out this science.
And see, that's where this is headed. That's where the government wants to use this technology. Like, look at all this stuff we could get if we could only get our hands on this technology. It's not technology. It's God created these things that don't have the same physics we do. However that works, I'm sure that they'll want to give that to us at some time. And looking at the chat, everyone's commenting about his hair. Come on, guys. Yeah, he has spy cameras in his hair. Actually, if you look back on some of his actual video or of what he looked like when he first got out of the military, his hair's all cut short. He looks like an Arabic, I guess, man. It doesn't look like he has wild hair. And his wife is a, I want to say Howley. He spent too much time in Hawaii. And so I think it's interesting that that he has this YouTube channel. I'm gonna actually dig even further into him. I'm fascinated by what he said, because I like the fact that he said, hey, we're not convinced that this is alien, but it is fascinating. Something's odd about this, and we're gonna figure out what it is. I respect that. Don't jump to conclusions and say it's ET from Mars. All right, last clip I have for you guys before I jump in the chat and look at stuff. This is a minute clip. This guy's name is Sergeant Clifford Stone. And by the way, where am I getting all this stuff? I'm getting all from the Discord, from our private community, where we post things and we learn, and sometimes they're old, sometimes they're new, but they might be new to us, and we gather things from there. And so this is some of the stuff that we found this week. It's very interesting because this guy, particularly, his name is Sergeant Clifford Stone. He was in the U.S. Army. He's retired now. He just did an interview, and he said, you know what? I've had some issues with a being that hangs around me, and he's told me some fascinating stuff about death. Now, remember what we just learned in the Bible about seeing dead people and all this stuff. If you have a being that shows you dead people or says that you can communicate with the dead, you're not talking to a good being. You're talking to the demons. And so listen to what he says about this. Sergeant Clifford Stone, U.S. Army, retired. Watch this.
My name is Clifford Stone. I retired as a Sergeant First Class from the U.S. Army. I was born in Portsmouth, Ohio. I had strange things happening to me, which I didn't actually tie those to UFOs, and I didn't tie them to anything of extraterrestrial origin. Actually, I thought of more along the lines of something being supernatural. It scared me. But then I realized there was nothing I could do about it. So from a very early start in life, all the way up to and including the present, I've been involved in UFOs and had strange events. And people will tell you that if you spend time at my house for any length of time, you will have strange events happen to you. As a child, I had the situation where I'd have playmates that were invisible. Well, everybody has those, right? Everybody has imaginary friends. Only this was more than that. They wasn't imaginary. They were real to me. And they would always caution me. Be careful what you say about us. Others can't see us. But they look very human. I had one that's very, very close. Like I say, it stays with me. That individual is called Corona, and it was made clear, always spell it with a K. I don't know what difference it makes. But I was told my name is Corona with a K. So that little entity, it's about 4.5, 5 foot tall. When my son passed away, Corona, I think, mourned with me.
No.
And I always, even today, I visit his grave. But one day I was praying and Corona said, "Do you mind if I pray with you?" And I said, "Not a problem, pray in your own way." And he got down on his knees just like we did. And people hate this part of it. But I said, "Do you have religion?" And they said, "Religion? Isn't that something that's created by man? Do we have faith?" Yes, we have faith. Do we believe that there is that which you call God. We accept that based on our science. It's no longer a faith-based idea that there is a creator, that which you call God. That truly is. Do you believe in life after death? Yes, they do. They even have means to communicate with their loved ones.
No.
It's not some parlor trick. They really
Yes, it
have
is.
the means to do it. But there are forbidden questions that you
Oh.
can't ask about what happens after death. Otherwise, you ask that, you're cut off immediately. The one thing they cannot tell you, they cannot come up and tell you that this religion is the true and correct religion, or that religion is true and correct religion. You must worship in your own way.
So isn't that interesting? I thought it was interesting that this demonic entity, this being that's been around him since he was very young, Corona, as he calls him, with a K, was so close to him that he believed that he was mourning his son, which I don't think so. I think that's deceptive. And then it would also say that you can't really ask anything about death or we'll cut you off. Of course you can't. This is the deception. They want you to be deceived about death because that's how they're going to deceive the rest of the world. No, they don't have the ability to communicate. They'll say that all day, but that's not true. And then he's like, oh, by the way, they worship. They believe that they know that they don't have to believe. They have science to prove God exists. That kind of goes along with the whole Raelism thing. Raelian, if you don't know who Raelism is, it's a guy who supposedly rewrote the Bible after space aliens that said they were scientists. They look like us, he said. They came down and they said, hey, you know what? Let me tell you exactly how the truth is about this Bible because you haven't been reading it very long. We want to tell you the truth about it. And you can be like us. We are scientists and we want to experiment with DNA, and so we've come to this planet because we can't do it on our own planet. This is essentially what this little Corona thing said to him. He said, we don't have to believe in religion. That's man-made. We have science to prove it. And you can be this too. You can have science to prove God exists. And what happens when the Antichrist does appear? Or these things say, absolutely, you guys are in for a wild ride on this earth because destruction is coming. You have to do something about this. Otherwise, something bad is going to happen here pretty soon. So I think it's interesting that this guy's come out with this story just recently. It's almost as if, all this stuff is already happening. And I don't believe it's even supposed to start yet. According to Revelation, all this stuff is supposed to happen later on, but I believe we're seeing a glimpse of what is being tested because Satan doesn't know the end from the beginning, so he has to have a little test base of a few people here and a few people there to see if it'll work, see if it'll change the psyche. He's doing tests on people and it's coming out. Like termites in the woodwork, once you see the holes, once they see them coming out of the wood, the entire thing is rotten. And so be very, very, very careful. Be watchful on what's happening here, because there's lots happening. Okay, let's go to the chat and see what's going on. It says here, this is why people need to know that the truth about death. Yeah, absolutely. They're predators. Everyone be nice. We're here to have an interesting conversation, and oftentimes it's hard not to have an interesting conversation. We all want to be here, so everyone, I want to see your kissy face. Everyone's good, and I think not everyone's good, but everyone we're here to be good and be good to others. My father would always say, "Be good and be good at it." So I think we all should be that way. What do you think of mud flood info up north of the 49th? Says, what do you think of the mud flood info? Mud flood? Am I out of this? What in the world is mud flood info? Send me something on it. I don't know anything about it. Oh, the Inveritas is here. Hello, my Raelian friend. How did I know? As soon as I mentioned Raelism, I knew you would appear. Well, welcome. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being here. And thank you, Judah. And everyone's free to go. You don't have to stick around. We're just gonna chat a little bit in the chat and say hello. And the mud flood theory. Someone send me information on this mud flood theory. I don't know anything about it. Mud flood theory. It's about all the buildings that were built prior to the America being discovered. Huh. No, I don't know anything about it. What is the mud flood theory? Great show. Thank you, Grub. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what mud flood theory is. Kind of a slow show tonight, I admit, because we didn't have much to say. We had, how long were we streaming for? I gotta go back right now and fix the problem that we had at the beginning with the audio. Hopefully we can get that taken care of. How far back were we? We almost did a 2-hour show. Does that mean it's midnight? Oh, it's 12:30. What in the world? Wow. We did a late show tonight. I've sent you information on the mud flood in your messenger. Cool. I'll look for it, Lisa. Past my bedtime, way past my bedtime. Love you all. Jesus loves you more. Amen. Thank you, Linda. I haven't even seen it. The 3-eye atlas through a telescope. I wonder if we can see it. Keeping us up late. We started out a little bit late tonight. $11:30 here. You must be on Central time. And thank you for the prayers for health. I truly believe it's working, because I've been doing these presentations around the U.S. and flying and not getting my sleep because of the flights are, keep me awake, red eyes and all this stuff. I haven't been sick, and I truly believe it's because of your prayers. Thank you so much. It's only 8:30 in Alaska. Thanks, Amy. You'll be up a while then. I need to go to bed. 9:25, 11:25. Yes, I got Hans. I got Amanda the Discord link. I think she got in. I saw something in Discord that says she's back, so I got to check on that. But it was we were trying to figure out what the issue was, but I think we got it figured out. If not, I'll ping her and find out what's going on, because I just sent her a link. Linda, let's see, been dark since noon. Oh yeah, Alaska's got a weird day-night thing, doesn't it? That's probably normal for you guys. 12:25 midnight in Montreal, and Veritas says, absolutely, you're on my time, Eastern. Hope you're doing well in Veritas. I know last time we talked, you were making sure everything was good. Yukon was mostly dark all the time now. Yeah. No rain right now. Why do people have crowns? Number 1, number 3, number 2. Is that something I need to know? What is the deal with that? I mean, oh, cool. People that have commented the most. Oh, very cool. Notion that street level exchanges of buildings got buried visually compelling. But as anyone found clear geological evidence of the global mud flood event? I'd love to see it. Okay. That's what the mud flood thing is. I'd like to look further into that too. Oh, it's the amount of interaction with the chat. That's what the crown means. Cool. I could put the chat on the screen so everyone can see it. There we go. And now you can't see me. Oh, whatever. I'm just butting around now. But I think it's time to say goodnight. So you guys have been great. I wish there was a little more flow to this episode. It was kind of rocky, but hopefully we'll get this working a little bit better next time, and it won't be as jumpy and stuff like that as we had it tonight. We had quite a problem, but 'tis life. Things happen. This was a good episode, interesting stuff, and I will see you guys around again. So as usual. Oh, man. My name is Bradley, and this has been Pure Strangeness, Absolute Normalcy.
You're watching Strange Normal, where the truth is the truth.